One of the most important metrics in your business is your profit. We know that it is one thing to have a lot of revenue, but that doesn't really matter if your profit isn't measuring up. And today I have as a guest a profit strategist. So stay tuned and listen in on how he helps business owners find the money gaps in their business. Welcome to the Breakthrough Mastermind Show. I'm your host, Jen Argue, and I facilitate masterminds for women entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses to help others and create financial independence. How are you?
I've been in Houston, Texas for 2 days on a boil water notice that was just lifted today.
Get out. So what is your focus with this big week that you have? Like, what's your intention that you're putting into it?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. So this
Yeah.
weekend, we're doing an event called Position Partner Profit. And we've only done this event one other time. We did it in 2018. And
Gosh.
I think I told you when we were at Shalene's event, it was going to be the transition, out of sponsorship for me. So we did it. I was so excited. And it was the first time I ever did an event that wasn't just sponsorship. It's really my business event.
Okay.
And so day one's all about positioning. Day two is all about different types of partnerships. Day three is all about your revenue and your profit. And we did it. I was so excited. Our highest profit event ever. And 3 weeks later, my dad died.
Oh, okay. I don't remember you saying that. That is
Okay. So yeah. So then we didn't have this conversation. I knew I had it with Brett a little bit. Because he was he's like, this event's just like different from all your other stuff. And so yeah, 3 weeks later, my dad passed, and I was just like, okay, now is not the time to start the new brand. Now is not the time to stop what's been working. Now is not the time to endeavor in the new. And so I didn't, and ended up in depression, a bunch of other stuff, therapy to get through depression. I didn't realize that what grief was. I think until you lose a parent, you don't understand what grief really is.
I agree.
Then I was like, okay. So that was, January 2nd, 2019 that my father passed. And I was like, January 2020, I'm like, okay, we're going to launch the brand. We'll launch it April 2020 with my friend Lakendra. We're going to launch it in the Philippines. And then,
Yes.
And I'm just so excited about this event because it's 4 years in the making. It's such an energetic release. It's such an energetic healing to be able to do this event. And it's such a shift. Like, we're going to only have like 40-ish people here in Houston. We made that shift probably in August. We made that decision to say, hey, the event space is not where it's been. So we're going to keep it very intimate in Houston. So we're going to have about 40-ish here in Houston. But that said, this morning, we crossed 1,000 registered virtual.
Oh, wow.
And I cried.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And I cried because it was like coaching so many amazing women and so many amazing humans. We've seen so many, like I've seen this happen for so many people. I've coached so many amazing people through this, but I've never allowed myself to experience it. And so this morning I was like, oh my God, I deserve this too. And it was just like such this epiphany of like, oh, like I've been helping everybody else do this and I deserve this too. And it was so beautiful. Like in the midst of all the crazy that's going on at the hotel, not because of the hotel, but like because of, a city water boil notice and all of that. Like, it's just, so yeah, that's what's going on. We've got great speakers, new tech, because hello, a Zoom webinar 500 license doesn't work when you've got this many people and still people registering.
Wow.
Different, now we need a different level of hotel Wi-Fi, which means a different level of hotel expense. And, you've done events, that.
Yes.
So it's so beautiful to be on such an amazing high and be experiencing shifts and to know that it's all working together for good at the same time.
And to know that you're figuring it out as you go and it's working.
listen. Yes.
Oh, that's incredible. That's really incredible. It sounds like with all these things that are happening, like the boiling water thing and the adjustments with the size of the online and the Wi-Fi and all that, like it put me in a spot of humility, like going into it, like, okay, I'm open to what else is going to come, like just kind of make you more alert and I don't know, just aware of like what's happening and what could happen. And more so
Yeah.
than even just going into it thinking like, okay, we're all ready, we're all set, let's go, you know?
Yeah, I would say like two huge awarenesses that I've had is like, a friend called me Sunday and was like, the boil water notice. And like it's gonna be Tuesday at the earliest. They're saying that that they're gonna have this thing fixed. Like what are you gonna do? And I was just celebrating my own growth as a human in that moment because they were like they were just like freaking the fuck out. And they're like, why aren't you freaking out? I was like, because it's not in my control. Like, why am I going to worry about something that I have zero control over? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't turn on the water. I can't purify the water for a city. I
Yeah.
can't, like, if I worry about this, it doesn't change what our attendees are facing. It doesn't, like, all of a sudden make it where the hotel has water. Like, it is completely out of my control. And
Mhm.
it was so beautiful for me to have that realization experiencing that's just to see my own growth as a leader and as a
Mhm.
coach and the thought work that I've been doing to be like, oh wow, like this shit really does work when you coach yourself. But also at the same time, to the flip side of it, to be having this awareness that as we're moving forward, as we're growing, that we can still have my eye on the goal, we can still move on the goal and know that I'm not alone in it. And so, we've
Mhm.
got people like Kenny, who is working with our AV company and AV team, and him and the team are making that happen. People like Leslie, who is on my team, who is dealing with registration. Melanie with our marketing arm, who's handling event emails and the new program that we're launching this weekend, and Tracy, who's also working with her on that, and Warren doing his piece. And so
Mhm.
I get to be the CEO of the company and be a leader and lead the team and lead myself so I can lead my team. And so that was also a big awareness this weekend. It's like, I've been working with these people. They all do their different things, but we haven't been, thrown into the fire per se. And to know like, oh, wow, like there was a time and not too long ago, like to be very specific, July 2019, which was the last in-person event we did before COVID. So July 2019, where like when oh shit happened, I was the person that had to answer all of it. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, like there's also people, there's also help. So like I'm not only not worrying about things that I can't change because I have no control over it,
Yeah.
but I also have allowed myself over the past couple years to not only ask for support, but to be supported and then let those people support me. Wow, we're just
Okay.
recording the podcast that we weren't going to record, but there we go.
Can you just, I mean, can we just acknowledge that that's probably the hardest part for most entrepreneurs is allowing themselves to be supported?
Yeah, and I would say that was the case for me. So years ago, my dear friend and sister, Allison Bird, we were talking about support. We were talking about help. And I was just like, I hired these people and it's just not working. And da, 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 and like, I want them to support me. Da, da. And she's like, have you ever told them what support looks like to you?
Mm.
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you're telling them, like, I want you to support me. But have you ever said, this is what support looks like to me? And so even going into this week and to this event, for example, Melanie on the marketing team, we're launching a new program this weekend. She's been working on that. And it's just like, hey, Melanie, what support looks like to me is making sure that these emails are done, that the sales page is done, Can I have it done by this day? And if there's anything that doesn't require me, can it please go to Leslie or Warren first? Telling Kenny, like, hey, I know you and me and Leslie have been on the phone, but this week I'm really focused on serving the people. I'm working on the content for this weekend. Support really looks like letting Leslie or Gloria know what's going on. And that's what support looks like this week. And so, like, truly identifying what support looks like, and that it's not always work. So like today, even like somebody who's speaking at the event that I've known, air quotes, for years, but we've never actually met in person, Zenobia Andrews. And I was just like, hey, like, I'm in Houston, and like, it'd just be really good just to go sit down and just have happy hour and clear my brain, like the space just to go sit and just be a friend. So I think that people want to be supportive, but we don't define what support is and then wonder why we don't feel supported.
Yes, yes. Do you know I actually ask that question in my mastermind when people just start? I ask them, like, literally in front of the group in our group time, what does being supported look like to you? Because when people leave the mastermind, I like to do exit interviews and ask them, did you feel supported or whatever?
Mm.
And I will get a mix of feedback, like either you were way too hard on me, or you were way too easy on me and you didn't confront me. And I'm like, oh, it's like, see, it's like different to everybody. And so some people, they want that push. And some people are like, oh, just like invite me into it. There's like a different, but people, experience that differently. And I love to like custom make the experience for them, and what works
Yeah.
best.
And like you're asking about that support, one of the things that, we do in my mastermind is, one of the phrases that entrepreneurs love to say, yeah, especially coaches, y'all, we love to say it, but people don't always love to be on the receiving end of it, is people are just like, oh my God, I need accountability. I need accountability. And until it's time to actually be held to account for something. And so when people are like, I want accountability, I'm like, okay, well, cool. Like, what does accountability mean to you?
Mhm.
And then they're just like, well, what do you mean? I've never been asked that. It was just like, well, like, how can you be held accountable if you don't know what accountability is?
So
And
good.
I think that, that even happens, whether it be accountability, whether it be support, or whether it even be like our goal setting, people just being human. We are human. Our brains are assholes most of the time. And because of that, we can end up on this hamster wheel. And so I was talking to someone the other day that is like, I want to help people make enough money. But I tell clients that like the result of them working with me is that they're going to know that they've made enough money, but nobody that I've ever worked with feels that they've made enough money. And I was like, well, is it possible that that's because enough is a moving target?
Mm-hmm.
And we just do this thing as humans where we just don't ever really identify what we mean when we say we want support, we want accountability, we want security, we want enough. Like, what does security mean? What does enough mean? Like, when people be like, I'll be okay when I get there. Well, where is there?
Isn't that the truth? Like, what is that target? Because it is always moving. And so how do you know that you hit it? Or yeah, how do you recognize all of the accomplishments that you made along the way if you don't even know all those things that you accomplished? You
Yeah.
know?
And like I can use this weekend's event for an example. Like, when we made the shift to say, hey, we're going to go in person, keep it very intimate, go virtual, make it no cost for the virtual. Let's try to get 1,000 people. I was very clear, 1,000 people virtual. And we're going to sell the recordings at $97. And let's try to make a 10% conversion rate on that. So you see, I had two metrics,
I love
1,000
that.
people virtual, 10% conversion rate. So
Yes.
we've crossed the 1,000 people virtual. We've not hit the 10% conversion rate into the recordings. Now, what we're seeing as we look at data now is that like, oh, wow, we've had more cold traffic to this than ever before. So we're converting at about 6.2%.
Mm,
So
yeah.
that feels awful compared to, oh my God, 10%. Like we're down 3.8% from where I want to be. But compared to internet marketing standards, this is amazing.
Right. 1 to
And
3% is typical.
correct. We're like, oh my
You're
God.
doubling that.
We're like,
More
depending on
than.
the spectrum of that, we're like 3 times to double where it is. And again, right, it's because we had a data point to be able to look at, not like, it'd be cool if we've had more people than ever register and more people than ever buy the recordings.
Mm, mhm.
Because we could have had one more person than ever register and one more person than ever buy the recordings and been like, well, like, why wasn't there more?
Mhm.
And now I can look at this and be like, oh my God, we did 1,000. Like, I am totally worthy of this. Like, how do we try to get to 2,000 by this weekend? There's like
Yeah.
4 days left. How do we get another 1,000 people? And we're at 6.2%. How do we raise that a little bit? Do we need to change it from recordings, which we actually did this morning? We changed it from event recordings to virtual VIP. Like when we
Mm,
look at things and when we have data, we can make decisions because we can actually have something concrete to look at.
mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's that concrete measurement that really helps you know where you're standing and where your efforts are going and what's working and how to change it, like you just said, to what you
Yeah.
did, which that was brilliant, by the way.
It
VIP
listen,
virtual.
it didn't feel brilliant in the moment. It was just like, and I think that well, one, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at learning to receive gratitude and be a gracious receiver. I'm getting better at that. I'm
Great.
working at
Aren't we all?
that. It's something about being able to look at it and take our ego out of it and asking questions about things like from a place of like, not am I wrong, but like, what could we do better? And I think that as humans, like the natural inclination of so many people is to go to like, what's wrong with me? Or what
Mhm,
did I do wrong?
mhm,
Versus how could the offer be better? How are people reading this?
mhm,
And like that's what we did. And so when I go back and I look at it, I'm just like, this is actually kind of shitty. Like, we're like, hey, come this weekend for free. And by the way, you can get the recordings 3 weeks after the event for $97 because we have to edit them. I'm like, there's a reason that's not converting as well as it could versus like, hey, come all weekend. And by the way, Saturday, Sunday during lunch, I'm going to do a private Q&A with just the people on virtual that register for this, just me and you still get the recordings. All of a sudden, that feels so much better than like, hi, you're coming to this thing and you have to wait 3 more weeks to get something. And
mhm,
like the reality is during lunch, I'd be answering people's questions in the in-person event anyways. Why not create a better experience for people in the virtual event? And
mhm,
so when we can look at things from the lens of our customer versus the lens of our ego, it gives us the opportunity to actually shift because then it's not like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Why aren't they buying? Why do they hate me? It's just like when I can look at it from the lens of them, it's just like, that really sucked. Like we're saying, like, hi, give us money. You're not going to get anything for 3 weeks. Like, no wonder people didn't buy.
I hope you sent a new email with the new messaging.
There's actually one going out this afternoon.
Oh, good. I think that conversion is gonna be up to 20%.
I think it's going to go up.
Yeah, at least.
And, but what it also does, right, is it also gives us the opportunity during the live stream Friday and Saturday to also share with people like, hey, if you're watching it, if you can't be here all 3 days, or if you've got a question and you like, we can't answer every single question with this many people in person and live, and you want a better chance of being coached, like, hey, upgrade to virtual VIP because Saturday, Sunday during lunch, like it's going to be an intimate group and I'll be able to answer those questions. And you can do that. Like, here's where to go. Well, as I say, no, so it gives that opportunity for that accessibility, for that coaching, for that intimacy that if we were just during the, even keeping the original offer, being like, hey, y'all, if y'all are enjoying this in 3 weeks, you can get recordings for $97. It, again, doesn't create something that feels good for the people.
And that is exactly why I buy the VIP ticket, is so I can have that access to the person that I'm going for. If I'm
Mhm.
going to that conference to see you, to hear you, that is such a small price to pay to have that access. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and you and I, we met at the VIP at this other conference. We both bought the VIP tickets, or maybe you got in free. I don't know, but I
Well,
did.
yeah, I was there because my husband was speaking. So
Okay, so so there's that. But yeah, but that's why I paid for that. I want to have those VIP lunches or the VIP panel, or just whatever access. I think that's a steal of a deal because typically to get that would be, well, a lot, you know.
yeah, and and you hit on that. It's like, while at that specific event, I was, my husband was speaking, and so I didn't officially pay for a VIP ticket. Like, when I look at events, whether it be a personal development event, whether it be a charity gala, whatever, I'm looking at, I want the VIP ticket. I want the VIP experience.
Mhm.
And it's not always because like the food is better. I mean, y'all, hotel food is hotel food. It's because of the people that are there. It's because of the connections that are made, and relationships that I have to this day are people that I've met at events and VIP experiences. And, in fact, the event that you're talking about where we connected at, we actually, and I would say we met at Marketing Impact Academy, but April and I and Warren, so April, I forgot what year. April, if you listen to this, remind us. But April held an end of year, like, hey, all my friends come to Vegas and have an end of year celebration. We all survived COVID Christmas party. And
Love
like,
that.
and she would like just invited friends from around the world, and we all met in Vegas. And at our table was me, my husband Warren, and Shalene.
Um,
And that's how, and I had met Shalene several years prior with an event that I was working with, but Warren and Shalene had never met. And Warren and Shalene just really hit it off.
yeah,
But again, it was just being at a dinner table, being at a reception,
love
just
that.
connecting and
Mhm.
building that genuine relationship. And, enough people don't understand that just being genuinely interested in people, just like you and I met, and we just connected and we just stayed in touch and just, followed up. And there's so many people that'll meet at an event and be like, oh, yeah, 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 we'll talk soon. And like, they don't. And I'm one of those people. It's like, if you tell me to follow up, like I'll bug you 2, 3 times. And I know that you're that way too. But it's
Mhm.
because of like, if you ask me to follow up, or if I tell you I will follow up, like that's like the very beginning of showing people that you can stay true to your word. And
Mhm.
what a beautiful way to start a friendship, a business relationship, is by showing that we can stay true to our word.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Stay true to your word, show that you care, just be a good human,
Yeah, all
and
of that stuff. Even when
form
there's like a boil notice at the hotel.
even then. I've been through a couple of those. They are not fun.
They are not. They are
Not.
not.
No, no. But speaking to that, I love the friendships that I make when I go to those things. I feel like when you're able to meet somebody, especially in person, like you're having this really big event this week through the weekend. And for all those people to have the opportunity to get to meet other people with similar interests,
Mhm.
similar passions, similar drive, I just think that is such a gift that you're offering to all those people,
Yeah.
along with everything that's happening on stage.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited for it. Like live events, events, period. I mean, like live events are one of my favorite things in the world.
Mhm,
I truly believe they're one of the fastest ways to grow your business. They're
mhm,
one of the fastest ways to grow your network. But they're also just an amazing way, like, even if not for you in that moment, like, you never know who you're going to meet that someone else needs.
mhm,
And like that's one of my favorite things about going to live events is meeting other people that I'll never even know, like, oh hey, like it's not about like who I need, but I'm gonna meet somebody awesome. And then later somebody's be like, oh, I need, I'm like, be like, you know what? I met somebody at this one event. Like in this weekend is actually a serendipitous example of that. I have a client who's a life coach who actually, well, she's a master life coach and runs her own life coaching school. And she has launched this mission and this new community called 1 million life coaches around the world, or around, I forget if it's around the world or around the globe. Lakendra, fix my statement. But it's either 1 million life coaches around the world or 1 million life coaches around the globe. Both sound amazing. It's one of them. And I just love the mission of that. I
mhm.
was at another event in October and I met a life coach. And she's talking to me about how, like there's so many people just getting into life coaching, but that like enough life coaches aren't actually reaching enough people. And that she's got this vision for this community called 1 billion served. And what happens if 1 billion people were served with life coaching? And they're both going to get to meet in person this weekend at my event.
Oh my goodness.
And like literally, one's a client. I met one at an event and I told them both, I was like, look, y'all both got to be in Houston because I just need the two of y'all to meet. If y'all attend no other session, I
Yeah.
need the two of you to meet because just the serendipity of what you're doing with 1 million coaches and 1 billion served, like,
Mhm,
what could you do together?
mhm.
And again, like, I gain nothing out of this other than like, I love seeing amazing people get together. And it's so beautiful to make that happen. Like, I can't wait. Like, I cannot wait for the two of them to meet. Like,
Wow.
I'm so excited to see what they do together.
I got the goosebumps like 3 times as you were telling that story. I feel like you're one of those people who's like a linchpin. Have you heard of that before? It's like a connector. You're a great connector. So speaking of that and speaking of your love for live events, and I wish this was coming out before your live event, but it's not. But your next one, people can listen to this and get tips for their next one. What would you say are 1 or 2 things that you like to do or you found that works really well to make the most of live events and making connections?
Yeah.
Because
So as an
yeah.
attendee, I'd say the very first thing is just like, just show up curious.
Mm,
And I love being curious when I go into places. And another way of saying that is, so my friend Justin runs the Growth Now Movement podcast. One of the things that he says is show up to be interested and not interesting.
mhm. Love that.
And I love the way that he words that. I know people say curiosity killed the cat, but I love just being curious
Yeah.
and just being playful. Along with being curious, number two is I would say be accessible. And so years ago, I was at an event, and many people may have heard of Dr. Greg Reed, who wrote 3 Feet from Gold, several other books with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And
Mm,
one of the things that he said that has always stuck with me is he said, the most successful people are the most accessible people.
oh,
And it is something that has stuck with me over the years that, no matter where their business has been, we've had ups, we've had downs, we've had ups again, is that when I'm at events, I am there to be present. I am there to be accessible. It doesn't matter whether it is an attendee, it is the hotel staff, event staff, whatever, like be accessible to people.
mm,
Like just be human, be there. So be curious, be accessible. And then I would say the third thing is gosh, I had like four more things, but I would say
ooh,
like
I
the,
want to
the,
hear
the
them
most
all.
important one
I want to hear
is
them all.
I would say the third one is be willing to learn. Like you don't have to be the know-it-all. I have literally gone to events with friends who run $40 million companies. And just, I think it was September of this year, I got to sit with one of my good friends who runs a $40 million company. And it's so amazing to watch people at that level sit in the front row of an event, still taking notes because they know there's always something to learn. And I
Mm,
share that because, whether you're making $1 or you haven't made your first dollar or $100,000 or $1 million, it can be very simple to fall into a trap of I know it all, I have it all, I am it all. And there's always something that we can learn from another human. And when we get to the point that we've stopped learning, I really feel that that's when we really like lose our edge in business. Like
mm,
even before this conversation, as we're streaming this weekend, because of the size of the virtual attendees and all of that, like we're looking at new streaming software. So I was literally texting Carson, who does all of Shalene's AV, and I was like, Carson, this Zoom webinar situation ain't going to work out. Like,
wow.
who do you use and why? And he's like, this is the platform. Here's why. And I was like, great. I got on the platform. I saw they didn't see any demo stuff. I reached back out. I was like, hey, do you know somebody there? And then I literally, before we were on the call, I had a meeting with the hotel. Right before that, I spent an hour on the phone with somebody at the software company, just learning this. And then also having the AV team that we hired, they were on so they could learn it, because even the AV team was willing to learn this new software so
Yeah.
we could help attendees this weekend. And so
Mm,
always be willing to learn, because like there's always at least one nugget, and you never know what that one nugget could mean for your business.
100%. Oh my gosh. Can I tell you what meeting somebody did for somebody in my mastermind?
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes you'll hear people say this, they paid, this huge investment to be a part of this mastermind. And it was all worth it because of like one thing they got out of it, like one conversation or one connection, one aha. I was at, it was the traffic and conversions event. I think it was 2021. And I was walking from dinner to the after event because I had the VIP. And I'm walking there. I run into this other woman. We still had our name tags on, even though we just weren't at the event, we were eating dinner or leaving from eating dinner, going to the parking lot area after event thing. And I'm like, I'm just going to strike a conversation with this woman. I'm like, so where are you from? What do you do? What are you doing here? And she said she was a Facebook ads manager. And I'm like, oh, what kind of people do you serve? And she told me, and I was like, oh, there's a woman in my mastermind who might want to get to know you. So I got her business card, handed it to the woman in my mastermind. And because of that connection, she started working with her. She went from a $5,000 a month revenue to $90,000 month revenue in a matter of 3 months.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Of course, her profit went up too, but you know how Facebook ads are. But
Yes.
it sounds a lot better sometimes. But she did have some good profit margins. But still, I mean, that was just like crazy amazing. And just think of like all those connections happening at your events. So, like, let's say somebody is listening to this and they're going to go to your next event. What would you say? Like, what is something super practical that they could do to get out of their shell if they're introverted or a shy extrovert or whatever? Like, how would you encourage somebody to get out of their shell to meet people?
See, I'm kind of bad at that because as extroverted as people think that I am, I really do process as an introvert. And
Mm.
I have the added benefit now that a lot of people know who I am, so people come to me. But
Ooh,
when
okay.
I first started attending events, I was that person. And this is why, even at my own events, like whenever people do that, everybody hug three people. I like run to the door. I'm like,
Hug,
no, I do not want you touching me. I do not know you. Do not get near me.
especially after
Like
COVID
I'm
now.
that person. People are like, but Roberto, you'd love to hug people. I'm like, I love to hug people. I know.
Oh,
And so So I would say one, like know what you're comfortable with, and like be okay with what you're comfortable with, and know your boundaries. And like
Mm,
you don't have to do things that just because people want you to do it if it, violates a boundary that you are not comfortable with.
mhm.
And then the second thing that I would say is, like, if there is a Facebook group or anything like that,
Mm.
like, get to know people ahead of time.
Ooh, smart.
And then one of the things that I do when I'm speaking at events and attending at events is I don't like to, like, be with a lot of people at once all the time. And so, and y'all, again, this can work if you're attending events, but also if you're speaking. I do this when I'm speaking at events too. I'll literally find a couple people and be like, "Hey, like, there's a lot of people here, but tomorrow morning I'm just gonna grab a couple tables at breakfast, and like, I'm gonna be in the restaurant at this time. If anybody just wants to come and have breakfast, like everybody buy their own breakfast, like we all got to eat. Like, it'd be great to get to know each other that way." And that's how I get to meet
Love
people,
that.
is because
Oh
then
my
I'm just
gosh.
like, I can be there 10 minutes, I can be there an hour. There's other people there. If they want to talk, awesome. If I'm loving the conversation, I can stay. If not,
Yeah.
I can go and there's other people there. But like,
Brilliant.
and it's just an amazing way to get to meet people. Everybody's going to eat anyways,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
just bring people together.
And sometimes those dinner table or breakfast table conversations are just so rich and, it's natural. People have their guard down. They're a little bit more open and you get to see the
Oh
whole
yeah.
person.
Also, like the last event I was at, like we hired a new contractor based off a breakfast conversation.
Wow.
The last event I was at, I was sitting down having breakfast with a couple other attendees, and I saw somebody walking by, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they came over and they were just like, "I'm gonna go into the VIP breakfast." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna sit here." And they're just like, "Why?" I said, "I don't feel like listening to people talk this early." And like literally that was my response. And they were just like, "That's a good point." And they like sat down and they started having breakfast. And I was just like, "What do you do?" And they started telling me, and I was like, "Oh, we need that." And we had a conversation after the event, and like now we're in our third month working with that company.
That's
And
incredible.
again, I didn't know what they did. I was just like, "Hey, where are you going?"
That is a great line. People write that down because sometimes we need to have a little script, right? That helps
Yeah,
us.
like I was like, "Where are you going?" And
What are you
again,
doing?
I didn't know what she did. I had no ulterior motive. I noticed
Yeah.
she didn't know that she was gonna end up pitching me. I didn't know that she was like, I was just curious,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, where are you going? Like, you look fun." And like,
I love that. Yeah. Those are really great tips because I think it is really important to like get out of your shell and make those connections and, talk to people.
yeah,
Yeah. The magic happens in those spots.
yeah.
So you said there's something I'm kind of curious about. You talked about how your business was it about branding and partnerships prior to
So
2019?
oh yeah, so prior to 2019, what I was known for, like, so y'all, if y'all get bored and Google me, most of what you'll find is on corporate sponsorship. And so
Okay.
I was known as the sponsorship guy. Listen, they call me the sponsorship guy, the sponsorship king, the sponsorship guru, all these things. And
Who
for
were your
about
who were your clients for that?
so we primarily worked with coaches, speakers, and entrepreneurs. Worked with
Okay.
over $25 million in funding for corporate sponsorship. We
Wow.
ran an event 25 times called Sponsorship Boot Camp, then an event called Sponsorship for Influencers. Still have a book called Sponsorship for Influencers. We're about to actually re-release a course called just after the year, called Sponsorship for Events. We're about to re-release that after, but as Disney likes to say, bring that out of the vault. But
I
that
saw
that
you're a
course,
Disney fan.
yes. So that course called Sponsorship for Events. But we really worked with coaches, speakers, office consultants to learn how to get sponsors for their books, products, services, and events.
Hmm.
And along that process, I loved that journey. But one of the things that I personally realized is that, I never had any intention of becoming the sponsorship guy. It was never my, like, oh my God, this is going to be my niche. I fell into it. And am very blessed to have friends that allowed me to fall into the industry the way that I did many years ago. And at the same time, I realized that there's so much more that I can do.
Mm,
And that the reason I'm so good at sponsorship is because I'm good at business. Like
mm,
the reason we could work with so much sponsorship is because I'm good at negotiation. The
mm,
reason we're got so much sponsorship is because I'm good at creating offers, because I'm good at pricing, because I'm good at understanding market research, right? And so because I understand business, because I understand strategy is why I was so good at sponsorship. And we were just wanting to, and I say we, I mean me, I mean the team, really wanting to lean more into business and primarily business coaching for women and people of color, outside of just sponsorship, because oftentimes people would come to us and want coaching around sponsorship or buy products around sponsorship, but they lacked infrastructure and areas of business that I was just that we were always just like, oh, well, go learn about ABC and then come back. Go learn about ABC and then come back. And it was just like, when are we going to stop saying like go learn about ABC and just start teaching ABC? And so I made the decision earlier this year to intentionally take a step back from sponsorship to reset up the business, the new core offerings, and we'll slowly start to re-release from the vault, as they say, a few of the sponsorship trainings.
interesting. Interesting. I love how it's kind of like you're building the whole ecosystem for people to have the total amount of success they could have with the sponsorships by getting the infrastructure set up. What was part of that infrastructure that you just saw was a gap for people?
Well, so what I tell people that I do now is that I help people find the money gaps in their business and fix them.
I love that.
And, because everybody has a money gap.
Yeah.
And if they tell me that they don't, they're lying. Because I have friends that, like I say, make 40, $50 million a year. And they're like, I have a money gap.
Yeah.
And so if they do, you do too.
Yeah.
I have money gaps. Like, so again, if you don't have a money gap, then you're just not willing to be honest with your business. And that's okay. Like, but just acknowledge that like you just want to lie to yourself. And so like the money gaps aren't always sales. And I think that that's what people typically think, is that like
Mm,
if I have a money gap, I just need to sell more.
mm,
But that's not the case, because sometimes it's that, oh, like I don't have the right team. I don't have the right marketing. I don't have the right intellectual property. I don't have the right offer. I don't have the right structure. I don't have the right profit margins. And so there's so many different gaps that somebody can have in their business. And so what I really love to do with the people that we work with, either in our membership or my mastermind or my one-on-one coaching clients, is really identifying the money gaps in their business and building a plan forward to fix those gaps so that they can grow to the place that they want to be.
mm. That is one of the things that I loved when I heard from you the first time about what you did. When you were like, I help people find the money gaps. I was like, oh, that is so good. I love how you just phrased that. And it's such a perfect offer for people because it identifies a real missing link, that everybody has. Like you said, we all have it, but it's like helping us to identify where it is in our business.
And what's so key about it, right, is that, whether that be something that, in our membership Profitable Community Academy that we help with, or in my mastermind, the Propel Mastermind, or in my one-on-one coaching, like there's different levels of access to how we help people find those gaps, because the gap is different based on where people are at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also it's not a cookie cutter solution.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why we offer different levels of coaching, different levels
Mhm.
of accessibility. And also, what I love about this work too is it doesn't make me, and I think that this is something that a lot of coaches like have an opportunity to grow away from. And y'all, somebody's going to take this the wrong way. And like, okay, like I already know it. Like so many coaches want to be responsible for 100% of the transformation of their client. And that's not our job. Like, our job is not to be responsible for the transformation of our client. Our job is to show up as a coach. Our job is to hold space. Our job is to coach. Like, we are not responsible for the action or the inaction of our clients, which also means that if we're not responsible for their action or inaction, that we're not responsible for their result. And that their result or lack of result because of their action or inaction has nothing to do with our worth. And I know somebody's going to fight me on that or cuss me out about that. That's okay. I've already been to therapy about this. And like, and that's so key for coaches to understand that the other reason I love that this structure is it actually lets me refer out.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
when I can identify, I can be like, oh, hey, you know what? Like, you've got some great ideas, but like you don't have any intellectual property set up. You don't have the trademarks, or like that could probably be patented, or you don't have the copyrights. Like here's a few amazing attorneys you could talk to that could really help you with this. Oh, you know what? Like you should probably look at maybe starting a mastermind program, something like that. Like maybe you should talk to Jen because she could help you with that. Oh, hey, you know what? Like you're really looking at wanting to build a profitable community. Like maybe you should talk with Warren about that. Oh, hey, like you're really wanting to focus on high ticket offers and being able to do that while being extremely feminine. Awesome. You should probably talk to April about that. Oh, like you're in a place where you're really starting out in your business and you want to grow your Instagram. Great. Like you should go to Insta Club Hub. And so like really what I do in like two ways that people have described it also is like one client says that I'm the Olivia Pope for business, and another person has described me as Dr. House. Is and they're two very different examples, but it's what I love to do is like sit down with somebody and figure out like how do we optimize your business? And I don't always have to be the answer.
Yeah,
I am
that's
not tied to being the solution for you.
and yet that's what makes you such a great solution is that you're so connected and you know who might have the best solution for people. But I also love that your offers are very accessible to people at the level that they're willing to invest, their finances and their energy and all that stuff. So just having all those different levels, yet keeping the coaching really custom within
Yeah.
those levels, I think is a beautiful way to offer people help in the area that you do with the profit gap. So it's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it's fun. And I think that what people can learn by watching some of the stuff that we do. And listen, y'all, like what I do, you don't have to do, because I'm gonna tell you there is no one right way. Like there's
Yes.
only what works for you.
Yes.
And so, listen, I've got stuff that's $7. I've got stuff that's $49 a month. I've got stuff that's $1,000. I've got stuff that's $15,000 a year. I've got stuff that's $5,000 a month. I've got stuff that's $10,000 a month. Right? It depends on where somebody's business is at
Mm,
and the level of access that they want.
mhm.
And so there is not a one size fits all solution. And here's the thing, your business also doesn't need all of those things. And especially if you're starting out, you don't need all of those things. Like I've been at this 13 years. So like
Yeah,
you
it's
get to
not good to
do
compare.
what feels amazing to you and sell in a way that absolutely delights you and
Mm.
price in a way that delights you. I have a client, Liz Wilcox. If y'all go to her website, it's lizwilcox.com. She runs a $9 a month email marketing membership. And as of the recording of this podcast right here today, November 2022, Liz has had her first $100,000 month. And as of today, I think it's about 125,000. Yeah, as of the recording of this, $125,132 this month on something that's a $9 a month product, y'all.
I
So,
love
like,
that.
you can make as much money as you want in a way that feels so good to you, as long as you create something that delights you, because you're not
Mhm.
going to sell it if it doesn't delight you. So,
Mhm.
whether that be $9 or 9 cents or $9,000 or $90,000, like, create the thing that delights you and delights your customer and go sell it.
That is just, that's what people need to hear. That just makes people feel good. It makes them want to do their business and be creative and give out of a good place. It's so
Yes,
good. I don't think we can improve on that. I think we're done.
we did it.
So if people want to get in your universe, learn more about you, where would you send them?
So find me on Instagram. My name is Roberto Candelaria. It is, y'all, I'll spell it. It's RobertoCandelaria. I have a podcast that I'm trying to be more regular on. I need to take some Metamucil for my podcast to be more regular, but it's called Relationships Make Money. And we talk all things partnerships and profits and a little bit of mindset because, like, let's be real, the only reason we don't have the profits in our business are the thoughts we think about ourselves in our business.
So good. All right, everyone, head on over there. Thank you so much, Roberto.
Thank you.
And if you are looking for more support, challenge, and inspiration in running your online business, I would love to have you apply to my mastermind. Check it out at jenargue.com.